Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Wow, we got a good reel today. We have a Fin-Nor reel that is a deep sea lever drag trolling reel. I think I got all of that in there. It's the Fin-Nor Golden Regal 50 Typhoon. And it was, made by Fin-Nor in Miami. It has a patent date. My guess is this reel is probably the 1960s, could be early 1970s. This one was sent in by Philip. He's a return customer who sends in unusual reels, and well, this is one of a pair of these that he sent in. This one, it's turning okay, but the lever drag is stuck, so not sure what's going on there. But what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to service this. Surprisingly, this reel is one of the easier of those reels to service. And very simple, straightforward construction. Fin-Nor was from Miami. They were a machine shop. They were actually boat builders. And back in the late 1930s, they started making fishing reels, in their machine shop because they, quite honestly, thought that they could do better than what was on the market. So we're going to take this apart, and we'll show you how to do that. You start with an Allen screw. This one is holding in, it's a set screw, you can see it come out here. It's a set screw that's holding the nut to the shaft. So today we see nut caps and we see other little variants in terms of how to secure that and stop it from rolling. That's the way. This is an American-made reel before metrics became the kind of standard machining. So you're going to use an American 5/8 wrench if you have one of these reels, and I would recommend that you use a schematic reel of the reel and that you take pictures. And I went out to the internet and I got this. It's well oiled. I put my oiler down and sure enough it leaked on here before I was able to do a video. That's wonderful. But that's going to be a burst diagram of how this reel operates, what the pieces and parts and components are. And if you have a question along the way, it's going to answer that question for you, so long as you can read a schematic diagram. It's a way to help you, too, when it's time to rebuild the reel, when it's time to put it back together. So if you've lost your way and wondered where a piece or a part went, for example, on this handle here, we'll get it off eventually, there's a little washer behind it. Now, when you take that off and you put it in safekeeping for your cleaning and all, you might forget that it went underneath. A lot of reels have that washer up top. So the schematic would show you that location in place. I do encourage you to take pictures. And I also want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you like videos on servicing fishing reels, if you like to learn a little bit about the company histories of the reels that made, the manufacturers that made the reels, and if you like to just kind of see all the different types of reels and how they're serviced, well, this is a good channel for that. My intention on Second Chance Tackle is to teach you how to do it yourself and to help you keep your reels going, and if you have one that's broken, how to give it a second chance. Well, I've worked on one of these reels. It's been quite some time, but I do remember it's relatively simplistic in its approach. There's 5 screws. There should be one under here, and there's a preset. I guess we can take that preset off now. This one's not working, so I'm kind of wondering what's causing it to bind. We'll find out over the course of this service. Take a picture here. Notice that there is an inner lever here. It has 2 hills or bumps on it, and those are going to face out when you go to reinstall. I'll put those in there for safekeeping. I did put a little bit of penetrating oil on there. Sometimes these screws, if they haven't been worked in a while, they're going to be sticky or hard to turn out. They're small screws, but you don't want to risk breaking the head off of them if you don't have to. Okay, there's one out. Go to this side. These 2 should be the same. There you go. They're hard to turn, but they are cooperating. And those 2, when I take them off, are going in the same place all those other ones have gone. They go into a parts tray. My system of organization is kind of organized chaos. I do put them all into the same tray. I kind of use different corners for sub-assemblies. And what I recommend to you is that you find the right place. Well, this is a 3/16 nut driver. It's actually a ratchet on a nut driver. And, well, those are the screw sizes for these two that hold the guide ring for the lever drag. And then we got one more screw under here. We'll hope that that screw is going to do the same as the others. And if we risk breaking it off, I guess it's hidden. Right? We have one more screw there. Let's see if we can get this one out. Oh, I was afraid of that. That's a really tight screw. There we go. We got it turning. All right. You need to be careful with these. It's still a little tight. I'm going to put a little bit of penetrating oil in there, and as I unscrew, hopefully that'll loosen up some of the threads. Get this one out in one piece. Yeah, it's cooperating now. Okay, those are the screws that hold the side plate in. So we should be able to get this side plate off now. Now, given the age and given the fact that this is got a stuck adjuster, my guess is it might take a little time to do that. Wow, that's quite a screw. And yeah, we can see on there that the back end of this has got a lot of salt buildup in there. So I guess my fears about it breaking off could have been justified there. All right, let's see if we can get this off now. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. I'm just going to use a screwdriver as a wedge here. Maybe use a razor blade as a wedge. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put some penetrating oil on the seam. Put the handle back on for a moment to see if I can't use that handle as a lever to pull the case off. I'm thinking because this thing has been so tight with that adjuster that we may be in a situation where the spool will come out with this, and that's okay. I just really want to get this off. There we go. All right, yay. So there's, what is the old saying, there's more than one way, right? All right. So this one you're going to find has got a huge amount of ball bearings. Oh, there you go. It's working, but boy, it's stuck. The main gear is stuck. That's not the adjuster. That's the main gear that, oh, there you go. It got out easy enough. Pay attention underneath here now. Take pictures. This is one of the big ball bearings. There's another one sitting right here. It's going to go in the pressure plate. In here. I'm going to flood that. There is a washer here that you are out of luck if this drag washer doesn't work, because there are no replacements. And we should be able to get this spool out now. And one of the things, well, that could be a reason why we got a little stickiness with that adjuster as well. I'm going to just see if I can't bring all of this up. Generally, if you have a reel like this, maybe Philip knows the history to it, I don't know. Hasn't been fishing in a while, we can figure that out because your free spool adjuster is not working. But if you don't know what the history is of the reel, don't trust the line. And this is monofilament, it's not the most expensive stuff. If it makes sense to you, what you want to do is replace that. All right, well, I got a lot of things laying on my desk here, so let's see if we can organize this a little bit better. Here's the frame, the spool, the side plate, the main gear, the pressure plate, which has the pinion gear on it, and the internal pressure plate piece. Well, I want to get some of these things out of the way. So part of what you do from a service standpoint is you clean, you inspect, you replace any worn parts, and in this case, if there's a broken part in here, we are in trouble because, well, you're just not going to find those parts. Fin-Nor today is part of Pure Fishing, but this was well before that alliance happened. And, well, if we get stuck, it may be the end of the reel, but I don't think that's the case. So we're going to continue on. I used a kitchen scrubby with some rod and reel cleaner on it. It does a good job of getting some dried grease and dirt off the inside of that case. And we can come over to this side now. First thing I want to do is push the axle shaft through. There's nothing holding that on there. It's a mess. Let's put that down for a moment. There is a spring on this side. Take the pictures so you know when the axle shaft comes through, there's a spring there. I think this washer is glued onto the spool because it looks like the glue is coming through the back end of this. So it's non-removable. There is a bearing on the back side after we clean the dirty diapers, and there's a bearing on the front side. So I'm going to just let that sit for a moment here. Take a paper towel and wipe off what I can of the old grease. While I'm doing that, I want to check the bearing. This one's working fine. Check the bearing in there. That's working fine. You can knock them out if you want. They are shielded bearings. What I'm going to do is just put a good coat of oil on there, let that oil seep in. This one's got an open face side to it. It's a shielded bearing, but it also has the open back end to it. We've did a little bit of this with the penetrating oil. You can see this one's working fine. All of the bearings in modern reels would work that good, right? Because it has that open back side, I'm going to use some fishing reel grease in this one. I'm going to grease pack it. I don't normally do that because I'm concerned when you put open grease into reels that it attracts the micro sands and salts. This one's really inside the reel here. It's going to be in the back end of this pressure plate. And, well, I'm just not as worried that something's going to get in there. I don't think that's the cause of the failure of that free spooling. And, well, we're just going to continue to clean here. While I do that, I want to encourage you to take pictures of the reel as you progress in whatever it is that you're servicing. That is invaluable. My pictures are the videos themselves here. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is ask questions. If you're working on a reel, and well, you're stuck, or you haven't seen something before, or I just got a question in today. Somebody was working on a Penn spin fisher and put it all back together again. There's a piece left over in the box, and they don't know where it goes. Well, those are the kind of questions I will try to help you out with. I encourage you to try to do the reels by yourself, and I try to backstop you if you wind up with an issue. Not sure if that's all the way down there. Doesn't feel like it's all the way down. But it certainly came out of there. Okay. Clean up all that old dirt. Make sure that the pinion gears grooves are clean. I'm going to use a little pick for that. Pull all that old grease right out. Penetrating oil will assist. If it's hard grease, use the penetrating oil to break up the old chunks. Grease will cause interesting things to happen. One of them could be that your lever drag gets stuck because of it. So let's go ahead and do that. Just checking on, yeah, that's going to ride high. I was just checking on this because it didn't seem like it was fully seated, but it is. All right, good enough. All right. We're clean here, clean here. That oil has had a chance to seep into the bearing on the other side, so let's oil this one. This is our main shaft, full of lovely greases. Somebody threw a lot of grease in here. It all leaked out onto the back as you saw in the axle shaft, And well, that's going to slow the performance of the reel down, so make sure that it gets cleaned. If you like, use that kitchen scrubby, or in this case I'm using a 4-row steel wool just to make sure that it's nice and smooth. Run your hands over it. And then just the lightest coat of grease will help that perform very well. Insert your axle shaft in the back end, bring it through, spin it, spinning nicely. Let's take this now, put a little bit of grease onto the back tail here, and seat this into the cavity in the back spool. And that darn tag end from that line got in there anyway. Another reason to remove your line before you service the reel. There is a spring that goes on next. Then this pressure plate assembly. We've cleaned the face of it. I've checked the leather drag here. That's okay. It's not going anywhere. This is how your pressure plate is going to install. Before I install that though, two things. I want to put a little bit of grease onto the shaft, which is going to run inside the pinion gear. And I've cleaned that pinion gear. I want to go ahead and re-grease. So that should enable this to move in and out. That's kind of how lever drags work. To apply pressure as you go forward with your lever, it's going to push this in. And when you release, it's going to pull back out. So this may have been stuck there. Not quite sure what happened to it, but whatever happened to it, it clearly didn't allow for that operation. All right, same thing on the back end here. We sprayed this down with penetrating oil earlier. This is your noisemaker, or an anti-reverse. And as Chris would say, it's time for a new towel. Let's clean the old dirts off of that. You do not need to remove these pieces. If you did, well, that's how it looks when you go to reset. A little bit of oil on there. Grease or oil on this bearing. Oil. A lot of grease on the back end of the main gear. That's probably causing some of the issues as well. So we'll go ahead and clean this while we're at it. It's settled into where your click ratchet is. This click ratchet is where those anti-reverse gears are going to line up. I'm just going to use a screwdriver here to break up that old grease. Get it out of the channel. Next thing you know, that dried grease will kind of shift. It'll go into your teeth in the main gear. And then you got a kind of a pothole effect, bumping in the road, if you will. Okay, clean that up. Another squirt of that, and then I'm going to grab a metal brush just to pull through and get the balance of that out. Some of this is stained. You're not going to change the stain, but you can get the dirt off, and that's the whole idea here. Okay, that's that. I'm going to take the steel wool and just work that shaft as well. Seem to have a little rough go going through that piece. Let's go ahead and make sure that that gets nice and clean. And the same thing that we do, or did, with the pinion gear. I'm going to use the brush since it's here to pull through those teeth, making sure that there's no old dried grease trapped in there. Last thing I want to do is run a little bit of a cotton swab or something inside, just to make sure if there's grease on this channel here and that oil port, that gets cleaned up as well. Now it looks like it's pretty clean there. You'll notice on the bottom there is an oil port, and you'll notice on the main gear that there is a spiral cut in that gear. So as you put the oil in, it will travel down and through those cuts. I'm going to put a light coating of grease onto the shaft, just like we did with the axle shaft. Then we'll bring this in through. I'm going to put grease onto the teeth of the main gear. And we have yet to seat those dogs. So don't jump in, check the comments and say at this point in the thing you didn't do that. We will in a moment. One thing at a time, if you will. We have our 2 anti-reverse dogs in here. Right now they're trapped in there. Oh, there we go. I just pushed them in. How do you like that? Turns free and easy. Look at that. All these years, what's this, 50, 60, 70-year-old reel, whatever it is, it's just humming right along there. What I like to do at this point is to take the washer for the reel and the handle. Get that on now. That's going to hold the main gear in place. This is a single speed reel. You figured that out. There's a one gear in there. You need 2 gears to make the 2-speed reel. I'm not sure if they even made the 2-speed reels at that point. And we have that little set screw, so let's go back and put that in while I'm at it as well. You could use one of those little multi-Allen wrench kits if you needed to. All right, that'll tie that down good. And just to be sure, give that a little crank, doing what it should do. Next, we can mount the side plate to the reel. We're going to merge the pinion gear into the hole in the bearing. Then we're going to line up the holes in the case for those screws. All right. 2 of those screws were the small screws that had the angles on them. One belonged here, so let's put that one in. And I'm going to choose to put that one in because I don't have to worry about the ring or anything at this point. And it looks like I'm not lined up. I must have just moved that as I was centering something. I'll try that again. So lever drags are not a new phenomenon. What is a new phenomenon is relatively new, is the smaller round bait caster ones that have come from a vet. Now, Scott from California is cringing now because he said it should be Av-et, and I put it on my emphasis on the wrong syllable. If that's the case, from an Av-et reel, or an accurate reel. But regardless, that is using the same technology that was demonstrated in this reel from quite some time ago. Okay, I've tightened down the 2 that are external, and we know we have that very long one. That's going to go through, and it's going to hold the harness lug as well. Before I put that in, I'm going to put a drop of oil in. Hopefully that's going to make it go a little bit easier as we remount. And this one will just take a little bit of time. I'm often asked about the power screwdrivers or mechanical screwdrivers. I don't recommend using them. I do understand that not everybody has the same hand strength. I also understand that, well, it can get tiring if you've got 6 or 8 of these, like is on a Shimano Triton lever drag reel, Beastmaster. But if you need to use them, then I would recommend that you stop short, like about here, and then just finish those last few turns by hand. Okay, we're getting closer. We have the piece that has the bump in it, that piece with the bump is going to go into the 2 grooves that are inside. So this needs to lay flat, just like that. It's flush, that there's no raised piece there. Next, what I want to do is take the trim ring, and there's a little hook here and a little guide. So let's, yeah, I thought so. This has a little lever, and it's kind of sticky, so I figure we might as well just put that penetrating oil in there to get that to loosen up a little bit while we're doing this. Let's bring the slot into the trim ring. Put this over the side. Like that. And if you like, start the screw so that you don't lose that lever. Then slide the trim ring in place. There's two more of these. One goes in each side here. And that's where I've used that little nut driver with the 3/16. Now don't tighten that all the way down, just get it anchored. You have to push the other side up here and make sure that it's in that groove on that lever. Now we can tighten up those two sides. And this is kind of an interesting set to this one, because what happens is you don't have the normal two-side spring release. The spring release is actually on the handle here. So maybe when I was saying initially that the free spool was stuck, maybe it wasn't stuck at all. It was just a matter that you need to push the button when that button was stuck. Okay, let's bring it back, push the button in, release, bring it back, and we should have free spool. We have free spool, beautiful. All right, bring it up, first strike. Well, that's telling you that we need to adjust, so bring it all the way back to free spool before you do the readjust. Tighten in, a couple of tightens, turns. Now let's see, now we've got the piece working, and wow, I like this reel. Philip, you did good. Wow, it's a beautiful reel. It's ready to go fishing. Maybe change that monofilament. I don't like the notion that it's there and without knowing what the date is. So change that, but otherwise, let's take a recap of what we did. We took the reel off completely. We found a lot of dry dirt and grease in this reel. We solved that by cleaning it all up. We inspected all the pieces and parts. They were in good condition. Did a nice cleaning. This thing shines up, not like it's from the 60s or 70s, but it's a beautiful reel nonetheless. We did discover that this little trip lever here wasn't working properly. That little bit of penetrating oil fixed that. Now we're in free spool. We have it. We can advance. We have our first strike. In order to advance further, now you're locked in. You have to push that button, bring it to the next hole. And boy, that one's ready to go fishing again. All about that little button on the reel there. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. To our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for all it is that you do to keep us safe. I really appreciate all of you, what you do for public safety and your support. This is the Golden Regal 50 Typhoon by Fin-Nor. It's a beautiful reel and now has a second chance to go fishing. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.